the Interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's National Compliment Day. Tony, you got anything nice to say to our viewers?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. We may be on ESPN2 today, but just for you, we'll give ESPN effort. No,
wow, that's good.
That's not actually true. We're on the deuce.
You're going to give
you
ESPN News or ESPN effort?
Now, how long does it go? How long till you get to the Ocho? How long till that happens?
It's a while.
That's our next stop. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Raiders hire Pete Carroll. The Jaguars lure Liam, that's hard to say, lure Liam Conaway from the Bucs, and Novak Djokovic gets booed at the Australian Open. But we begin today with Sunday's conference championship games. There's Buffalo at Kansas City in the AFC. No real surprises there. And Washington's at Philadelphia in the NFC. And Washington, 4-13 last year, is certainly a surprise. Wilbon, which teams do you have the most faith in?
Tony, you can make that singular. Which team do I have the most faith in? The champs, the multiple-time champions who are trying to win their fourth Super Bowl in 6 years. They're the only ones. And I'm not saying they're a lock. You know, I've watched a lot of our own network this morning, and really smart people, like I think Ryan Clark was one of them, really smart career football people, look at these teams. They have watched film all year. They've watched teams all year. And one after another seems to pick Buffalo and says Buffalo is the better team right now, and explaining in great detail why they feel confident that it's Buffalo's time, that it's Josh Allen's time to beat Kansas City. And I just as a gut feeling, they've forgotten more today than I'll ever know. As a gut feeling, I don't feel that Buffalo's going to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. So I have some faith in the Chiefs based on what they've done, and I don't have it in the Commanders or Philly. And I know Philly was in the Super Bowl just a few years ago. I get it. Jalen Hurts, though, and that knee is balky, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. And I know the Commanders are at least like 2 years ahead of where we all thought they would be. But faith, I mean, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with them to no end, but not faith. So I got faith in one of the four teams playing on Sunday.
There's an interesting little fact that I heard today that of these four teams that are still alive for the Super Bowl, in the playoffs, none of them have turned the football over at all. Not at all. That's something to think about. On the question of faith, like you, I have faith in Kansas City. Because what have they won this game 4 out of the last 5 years or something like that? They know how to win this game. Would I be stunned if Buffalo won?
No.
No, I wouldn't be stunned.
No.
Would I be a little bit surprised? Yes, I would be a little bit surprised. But they've been knocking on this door for a while. It's possible. Do I have faith in Philadelphia? I think Philadelphia is a very good team. I think they're a better team than Washington. And by the way, you were enraptured the other day about an I-95 game. This is the first time that two teams in this division have played off to go to the Super Bowl since 1986. And how old are we? Because we were there. That was in New York. That was the Giants beating Washington. And we were both at that game. It's a long time ago.
That's right.
I, like you, I question whether or not Jalen Hurts is completely healthy. And I'm rooting for Washington. I'm a fan of Jaden Daniels. But I also know that 5 rookie quarterbacks have gotten this far. 5. And their record is 0-5, even though 2 of them, Ben Roethlisberger and Joe Flacco, went on to win Super Bowls.
Later.
Mike, I agree with you. I agree with you that there's not a super team out there. But Kansas City has done everything that they have been asked to do. If they win the Super Bowl, that's 3 in a row. No one has ever done that. That cements their dynasty, and no one will ever care down the road that their point differential wasn't impressive. No one will care.
I completely agree with you if they get this 3rd in a row. And maybe their superpower is endurance of this particular team. Enduring the long season, enduring these crazy last-second, last-play victories. Maybe that's their superpower.
They win them.
And, you know, and it's not a dominating season, but it can be just as impressive in another way. They win. Let's move to the Raiders hiring of Pete Carroll. At 73 years old, Carroll becomes the oldest coach in the NFL. Of course, one of the most accomplished football coaches at all levels, having won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks and a college football title with Southern Cal. His career regular season record as an NFL head coach across 3 previous teams is 170 120-1. Tone, how's this hire feel to you?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to make a big deal over the fact that he's 73 years old because he's a kid to me. I think Pete Carroll is a terrific coach. As you said, he won a Super Bowl in Seattle. He won the national championship at USC. And not a lot of people have done that. I think there's 2 or 3 others. So his credentials are impeccable. And when it began to go south a few years ago in Seattle, there was not a collapse there under Pete Carroll in the way that there was a collapse under Bill Belichick when it began to go south in New England a couple of years ago. I think he will come in right away and because he's a defensive guy and improve the Raiders defense. But Mike, he doesn't have a quarterback. You have to have a quarterback. He's in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Bo Nix, who are all good, and you can't win with you got to score some points. You can't win that way. So that's the critical thing. Is he going to go out and get a quarterback? And I'll shut up for a little while and let you talk, and then I'll come back to the quarterback thing. I just want to say, I think it's going to be cool that he plays Harbaugh twice a year and they can scream, "What's your deal?" across the field. I would like to see that.
You mean you're not impressed with the reports, rumors that Sam Darnold could be wearing the silver and black? Huh? I mean,
Maybe.
you know, and Pete has had staffs who can coach up a quarterback. Another rumor out there is that he's patched it up with Russ. He and Russell Wilson, a person who got him one stupid offensive coordinator call away from 2 Super Bowls.
Away from 2.
That's what he and Russ were right there on the apron of. Tony, you know, it's interesting to talk about age. Pete Carroll has such youthful exuberance that if you just had to know how old he was and pick a number, you'd never seen Pete Carroll. You'd watch him on the sideline for, say, 4 weeks, and you said, okay, you don't know that guy. How old is he? I don't know. You might say 60. You might not even. I mean, Pete Carroll seems to have that. There's a treasure trove of knowledge. I can tell you this. I'm really happy with my Bears having gone another way to a 38-year-old assistant who hasn't been a head coach. I think I'm happy right now. But if the Bears had hired Pete Carroll, Tony, I would have been hopeful. And there would have been a different type of optimism, hoping that Pete Carroll could rekindle what he's already produced. Because you know what he's got?
It's all fair.
He's got 170 more victories in the NFL than the coordinator from the Detroit Lions we just stole away and are putting all the trust in. 170 more.
Let me give you 2 other quarterback names that are possibilities.
Who?
If Atlanta cuts Kirk Cousins and he's free on the open market, he could go there. I'm sure he knows Pete Carroll's work. And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is in play, but Tom Brady is an owner now of Las Vegas. And Tom Brady's going to have some say with the quarterbacks. The fact of the matter is that, you know, you can't win. It's the difference between winning and losing.
That's right.
A good quarterback. Right. It really is. We turn to the Australian Open, where the big news today is Novak Djokovic retiring after losing his first set with number 2 seed Alexander Zverev. I get this wrong all the time. Pushing Zverev into the final against number 1 seed Jannik Sinner, who easily beat Ben Shelton. The 10-time Australian Open champion who left the court with a muscle tear in his leg was booed. Booed! Wilbon, does Djokovic's full Australian Open make you more or less bullish on his prospects of winning another major?
No, Tony, once you start getting these injuries, and they're varied injuries, once you start that, at this age, you're done. You're done shortly. Then you might rise up and you might stay healthy for the entire 2 weeks of another slam, but no. You start having these injuries at this stage, and that is the bell lap. We've already heard the bell. We'll see how far he can go around the track, but he's essentially done. That's just father time. And that is consistent. It is undefeated once you start having these injuries. People can say, wait a minute, what about LeBron James? LeBron James hadn't had those kind of injuries. He hasn't. He's been able to avoid that through both great work and great genetics and some good luck. There are people who avoid it. But no, Tone, I don't think this run does anything to make me think that he's going to have another one.
I'm going to disagree slightly. I mean, people get hurt all the time. He's 37, so it looks worse. People at 27 retire from a match. Naomi Osaka did it a week ago. She's 27 years old. I would look at the full extent of his Australian Open, and then I would see that he beat Carlos Alcaraz. And so I would say, no, maybe he's got a shot in him. Because last year, he got out of the French Open with a bad knee. He retired in May of the French Open. And then he came back in Wimbledon, and he was in the finals in July. And then he won the gold medal in Paris in August. I'm not, if it's repetitive and it's different injuries, you're right. If it's the same one, I'm not as worried as you are. I do want to get to the booing because Zverev said, this is unconscionable. You can't boo this guy. And you can't. He's won this thing 10 times. You cannot boo him. And I wondered about it, and I thought maybe it goes back to when he was deported a few years ago because he lied on his entry visa to get into the country. Maybe people held a grudge. And there's another thing too, Mike, and he's a great, great player. But the people he beat finally to establish himself as one of the all-timers, Federer and Nadal, are beloved tennis players. Beloved tennis players. And and he never got that. He never reached that level. Let's take a break. Coming up, what's the word for Liam Cohen rejecting the Jaguars, getting a new deal from the Bucks, and then accepting the Jags after all?
And how best to describe the Joker's third quarter buzzer beater. You can boo him. You can boo. It's a personal choice. He has made personal choices in his life that annoy or offend other people. So boo his butt off. Boo him.
It's time to have some words with Wilbon. Let's get the first one from the producer over the loudspeaker.
Liam Cohen's departure from the Bucks to the Jaguars sounds blank.
My word is shady, and I'll go to the background here so people understand what I'm talking about. He had interviewed, I guess, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He took himself out of the competition for that, and he went to re-sign an extension with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that was going to make him the most highly paid coordinator in the NFL. It is reported that there was an understanding in that contract, new contract, that he would not have face-to-face interviews anymore with the Jacksonville Jaguars, okay? So obviously he did have a face-to-face interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's reported by the Tampa Bay Times that Cohen called Todd Bowles and said he was calling from the doctor's office where he was there with his kid, but he did say he might like to reopen the thing with Jacksonville. And now he's the coach. And this happened in a pretty short period of time. And that's why, Mike, I'm saying it's shady. But I will also say this, that he did a fabulous reclamation project with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
and maybe he can do the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. And that's needed there, because Trevor Lawrence looks dangerously like he's on the bust category. So and you take these jobs, there's only 32 of them. You take them.
At least on the bubble. Tony, I won't go as far as shady, but I hear you. I'm sort of leaning in your direction. I'm going to call it fictional. It sounds like the plot, the larger plot in a bad television show where you go, wait a minute, he called from where? He agreed to what? I mean, there's just so many points to it which become not believable, or there's subterfuge, or there's just straight up lying, that it seems fictional. And I guess it's not fictional, and now it's come to fruition. It seems like if the Patriots were involved in this, there'd be an investigation. But I guess, none of those Florida teams rise to that standard.
And you know why you take this job, Mike? You take it because when you're the hot boy one year, you might not be the next. Bobby Slowick just got fired as offensive coordinator in Houston. Last year, everybody wanted to be a head coach.
Yeah.
Whoa. What's next?
Nikola Jokic's third quarter buzzer beater last night was blank.
It was effortless. If you look at the tape, it doesn't even look like he's trying hard to do this. It doesn't even look like he thinks it has any chance to go in. It is so casual. It's like he's tossing a football with a kid somewhere. And then later he says he thought it was going to go in the whole way. Well, if that's what he thought, I would advise him to take this shot 5 times a game, because nobody's actually going to guard him if he takes this shot. Mike, I got to go to numbers. He had 35 points, 22 rebounds, and 17 assists. You know who had those kind of numbers? One guy ever. Will Chamberlain. Will Chamberlain. And the last time he had it was 1968. This is not, as you like to say, 18, 12, 5, 5, 5, 5. No, it's not.
5. No, these are real numbers.
These are real numbers.
That's right.
These are real. These are MVP quality numbers.
Tony, you know I agree with every word of this. I'll change my word, and I'll say that third quarter shot, it obscures the year he's having. Now, look, I'm one of those people, and I do have a vote for MVP. And if I had to vote tonight, I think I would still vote for SGA, for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because his team is in first, a runaway first. They play in the same division as Denver. I mean, I know they just lost their most recent game, but OKC is so good. They're having such a year, and SGA is their best player. But, Tony, the numbers that Joker's averaging, you know he in scoring, rebounding, and assisting is third, and second in the league? That's insane. He's averaging more points than Shaq ever did, more rebounds than Tim Duncan ever averaged, and he's averaging more rebounds than assists than LeBron James ever has, except once. 10 assists a game. LeBron was at 10.2. LeBron James, one of the greatest creators of all time. Joker is in that company in these three categories. Tony,
Agreed.
it may force us to rethink the balloting if he continues this when we get to April.
These are great. I'll just point this out, and I know I appreciate that Gilgeous-Alexander's in first place, but you voted for Embiid when his team was third or fourth. Like you didn't say you have to lead it and be the number one team in the conference.
It was tight, though.
There are different votes.
He's leading
That's
by
the
a
final
lot,
word.
like 8 games over Denver, something like that.
Let's take one last break still to come. The kid who landed the one-of-one Paul Skeens rookie card decides whether to take the Pirates offer. I don't know the answer to this. I hope he declines. I hope he declines.
Brad Marchand goes for the throat of Nick Cousins. So not the ear, but the throat. Okay.
Did not lick his face. Did not apparently lick his face.
Shop.
Happy time, people. Happy 26th birthday, Tristan Wirfs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers left tackle is the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL, having signed a 5-year, $140 million extension with the Bucs after last season.
Wow.
This season, Wirfs became the only lineman ever named first-team All-Pro at left tackle and at right tackle. Wirfs started every game at right tackle in his rookie year in 2020 when he was drafted 13th overall out of Iowa. That was the year Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Wirfs moved to left tackle last year and was first-team All-Pro this year, his 4th straight year as a Pro Bowler. Wirfs did not allow a sack all season and yielded just 1 quarterback hit on Baker Mayfield.
Tony, I'm surprised at this, given the way offensive linemen more routinely, moved around up and down the line in the 60s and 70s and even the 80s, that there wasn't somebody who achieved that distinction before now. Did that surprise you that this is the first, that Wirfs is the first guy?
I agree with that. I would have thought you could do it at tackle and guard. I would have thought it happened almost routinely at some point.
Well, tackling.
Happy anniversary, Bradley Roby. On this day 9 years ago, the Broncos cornerback picked off Tom Brady's 2-point conversion pass with 12 seconds left in the AFC Championship game to preserve a 20-18 victory and keep New England out of the Super Bowl. Denver went instead, and with Peyton Manning at quarterback, beat Carolina 24-10. This was Roby's second NFL season after being a late first-round pick out of Ohio State. And then lean times hit the Broncos. They missed the playoffs 8 straight seasons under a variety of coaches: Gary Kubiak, Vance Joseph, Vic Fangio, Nathaniel Hackett, and Sean Payton, who was brought in last season. But Payton got the Broncos to the playoffs this season.
Tony, so what was the worst interception, big game interception? The one Brady threw, or the one earlier in the show I mentioned that Russ threw?
Oh, it's got to be that. That lost the Super Bowl. That's in the. You're going to win the Super Bowl. It's that. It's that. Happy trails to last night's game for the Senators. Boston beat Ottawa 2-0, but that's not why we're doing this story. We're doing it because in the first period, Bruins captain Brad Marchand took exception to what he felt was a dive by Nick Cousins by grabbing Cousins' throat. Cousins and Marchand finished 1-2 in last year's player survey by The Athletic of who's the player in the league whose face you want to punch most. No penalty was called on Marchand for this, though the league may weigh in later. Back in 2018, the NHL ordered Marchand to stop licking players. Wilbon, as a hockey player, would you rather have an opponent lick your face or choke you?
Well, he didn't really choke him. He put his hand on his neck, and there's so many people, including a zebra, standing right there. No harm was going to be done. But licking, no. No, there's no order to stop licking. You call him in the office, say, put your tongue in your mouth, you're suspended for 10 games. That's how that would go.
That's the way it
if
works.
I was the commissioner.
One omission, the 11-year-old kid who got the Paul Skeens rookie card turned down the Pirates offer. He'll put the card up for auction. We applaud you. We applaud
like
you.
that.
Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Anthony Davis says the Lakers need another big. Do you agree?
I don't care about what the Lakers say. They beat the daylights out of the Celtics last night, handed the C's, their worst loss of the season, the champs. Alex Ovechkin scored an empty netter and is now just 20 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. Your thoughts?
Even being out for 3 to 4 weeks with a broken leg, I think he's going to get it this year. I do. Scottie Scheffler will return to the PGA Tour next week at Pebble Beach. Are you excited?
No, we didn't miss anything. What are we talking about? The season just started. I hope his hand, however he punctured it at Christmas dinner, is okay. In men's hoops, number 6 Tennessee visits number 1 Auburn Saturday. You intrigued?
Yeah, it's Bruce Pearl now against Bruce Pearl then. I think he'll win with Auburn. Last one, Aussie Open women's final at 3:30 a.m. tonight. Sabalenka versus Keys. Who you got?
I'm rooting for Keys, but there's a day, Tony, you know. I would have stayed up till 2:30 Central to watch. I think those days are over now. Come and go.
Gone. Out of time. Trying to do better the next time. Congratulations, Kenny McPeak on Torpedo Anna.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, knuckleheads. You can get us a bunch of places.